So here we are again, back by bafflingly unpopular demand. And tonight I'm going to continue my journey into the examination of some female vocalists and some lyrics sung by those female vocalists. As a long-time conscientious objector in the Fish versus Hogarth wars of the late and latter Marillion years, I have no interest whatsoever in getting involved in the vocalist wars of the Nightwish community. I don't see the sense of them. There is music that exists. Some of it was sung by somebody. Some of it was sung by somebody else. As far as I can tell, both ladies have spectacular voices and should both be celebrated. So tonight, what I'm going to do, in my ongoing homework and exploration, I was looking for an earlier song with the previous singer to take a look at, because a lot of people have been indicating I should give her some love, and in that exploration I came across Nemo, and I came across the official video of Nemo, which has its own story, and I came across the lyric, and I figured that this is a great starting point for the next chapter in our female-led vocals and lyrics. So this is Nightwish, Nemo. Just like that. This is what $80,000 buys you back then. Fantastic looking video, actually. MTV apparently didn't want to play it because it had snow in it. So, as always, Tomas is teaching me something. I knew the name Nemo. I didn't associate it with a cartoon. I associated it with leagues spent underneath the ocean, 40,000 of them, in a linear line, as opposed to horizontally as opposed to vertically. I did not know that Nemo means without a name. As I've said, in this process of getting to talk about and starting to talk about songs I'm not familiar with, I've come to realize I owe them the due diligence of doing some homework. And I found an article and an interview about this song, and one of the things that it mentioned is that this is a song, the name of the song is literally the Latin for no name, and that this is a song about a writer, particularly Tomas, feeling at a low point of his life, feeling where he's the one without name, he's the one that's lost, feeling that he doesn't have an honest compass. And yet, he's honest enough to admit it. The song becomes the confessional. The writing process becomes the confessional. The writing process becomes your own subtext. I'd be lying if I didn't admit that there have been times when I've written lines of dialogue in television episodes that have been as much about the process of writing that episode of television than they were about the character in that moment. And here we've got a writer maintaining he feels like he's lost his compass, that his compass is being emotionally dishonest, is taking him in the wrong direction, and yet being honest enough to say it. Now, one of the tricky things about Nightwish that I've tried to communicate in the comments section, which has become one of my day jobs, is there is definitely an issue of the difference between a piece of poetry and a piece of lyric writing written in the English idiom, an idiom, the only idiom I'm comfortable with, and English as it's written by someone for whom English is not their first language, but one of many. In fact, I mean, I've been listening today, watching on YouTube some Tomas interviews, and he's every bit as smart as I've said I thought he was, and well read and erudite and interesting, and clearly fantastic in the English language. But he writes in a different idiom to the one that I would write with, and a stupid example of that is, if I were writing this lyric, I would never ever write for forever. I just wouldn't. It would be, this is me forever. This is me forever. The for forever creates a different rhythm in the sentence. And as much as it scans musically in a particular way, it creates a different rhythm in my hearing of it because it's idiomatically different. And if you extrapolate for forever into some of the deeper, denser pieces of poetry, that's why I'm being very careful about what I look at and and how I create this process. So the stuff that I do talk about, I feel like I can get a hold on. And clearly this I absolutely do, because here's a writer, and he's not talking about writer's block. He's talking about feeling like he's lost his moral compass, talking about feeling he's lost his sense of self. He's talking about, as he describes in the interview, he's talking about one of the low points of his life. And he's writing the song to find the missing lifeline, to connect himself back to himself, to give himself a name again. So he's writing from a position of a man who feels that his writing is maybe the only honest, tangible thing that he can cling on to at a time when he feels like he's lost everything else up to and including his name. That, I think everybody can relate to those dark moments, those moments that Churchill called the black dog. I've certainly had them. And there have been times when the only salve for the black dog was to power through it by doing what I do, putting my hands on the keyboard and just keep writing. So this is not a particularly impenetrable lyric. I suspect that everybody that reads it, listens to it, hears it, can understand it, can penetrate it enough to get beyond intent. But as a writer, in a song written by a man who writes a lot about being a writer, this definitely has a Velcro quality. Let's be clear, that's an incredibly catchy chorus. I'm probably going to be singing myself to sleep with that chorus tonight. It's as close to pop as metal gets, in a very, very pleasing way. Soothing rain. Is the rain soothing? That might be a very Finnish thing. Most of my English neighbours would be very much wishing for the burning sun and the towel placed next to the pool, I guess. All I wish is to dream again. My loving heart lost in the dark, for hope I'd give my everything. Now I like the idea that he's not offering to give his everything for a solution. He's not offering to give his everything for a happy life. He's offering to give his everything for just the hope of a happy life, for the hope of finding himself in the darkness. That's got a melancholy to it that is very, very pleasing. Okay, so this is a great verse. The imagery of the flower withered between the pages 2 and 3. I mean, the flower pressed between the pages, the dried up flower in itself is such a lovely image. The flower in the early pages of the book of his life. The once and forever bloom, gone with my sins, walking the dark path. All of this is of one with the tone. Sleep with the angels. Is that the idea of suicide? Somebody in the comments section answers on a postcard time shared with me it made me laugh out loud. I woke up to a laugh out loud, and the joke was that the Finnish are the most suicidal people on the planet, but also routinely top the world rankings for happiness. And their explanation for that is that all the people that want to commit suicide have. That's so dark and so brilliant. Now, I don't know, is Sleep with Angels a sort of hint at the suicidal quality? Call the past for help. I don't know. But this, as a man who has previously talked about how my email signature is all you could love, who spends his whole life idealizing love, and the idea of love and the power of love and the idea of the redemptive quality of love. Touch me with your love and reveal to me my true name. Steve Hogarth writes in a lyric that I'll probably talk about at some stage, only love will turn us round. So we live, you and I, either side of the edge, and we run and we scream with the dilated stare of obsession and dreaming. Only love can turn us around, said Steve Hogarth. And Tomas is saying the same thing here. Touch me with your love and give me back my name. Stop me being Nemo by loving me. Ultimately, love is the redemption he's asking for. Love is the healing he's asking for. Because the alternative to sleeping with the angels and dark paths is all you could love. Right? Nice breakdown. Big power chords. Love it. No, sir, not your name forevermore. Not the man who wrote the greatest song. Oh! Amazing guitar solo. Tasteful, elegant, exactly everything I like in a guitar solo. Nemo, my name forevermore? No, sir. No, sir, it wasn't your name forevermore. You got over it. You wrote the greatest show on earth. Tomas is your name. And then the immersion into the water being such a... seems to be a common thread I'm seeing in Tomas's writing. I remember mentioning the description of Marillion as songs about death and water. It seems to be water holds a very deep attachment to us, but here we had the symbolic immersion in water, the baptism, if you will, and Nemo sailing home, Nemo letting go. That's a Nemo that's That's not a Nemo that's giving up. That's a Nemo that's remembering his name. I choose to believe that. I choose to believe that Nemo found love, and in finding love, Nemo found his name. Ooh. Yeah. Love that piano line. Great performance. Super catchy, super accessible song. I can see why 45 million people chose to watch it, and I can see why it was a breakthrough song for Nightwish. It's certainly not the most challenging song they've made, even by my limited knowledge. It's certainly not the most proggy or the most sophisticated. But I will wake up in the morning singing that chorus. And I liked everything about this song, including the $80 million music video, which is just a fantastic piece of work as well. I'm gonna stop now because I've got another song to do by a singer that looks remarkably like this one as we continue our journey into female vocalists and the lyrics that they're singing. So keep the faith. Thanks for watching. Come back in a few minutes for the next one.